let's talk about the Toph situation. This is from like an interview, and obviously everyone got real mad. So let's just read through this. I'll give my quick reaction, then we'll read the article. So basically, there was an interview done with the Toph actress, and she said that Toph is going to be slightly more feminine than her animated counterpart, right? And my response to this, I saw this, and I had basically the same reaction as them talking about Sokka and the whole sexism thing, right? I just thought it was weird, and then like by removing it, you're almost achieving the opposite thing of, right? Because it was a flaw in the original, and you're removing it for the adaptation, and it's kind of like, why are you removing a flaw that was clearly portrayed as a flaw? Seems like a very weird move, right? Because like the original critique the flaw, and you're just covering it up as if it wasn't there. Weird. Whatever. So seems weird to me, but this is an interview. I've got no idea what this change is actually going to be. Like, I don't think like she had anything prepped. Like, I don't think they have specific talking points that they can talk about and can't talk about, right? I think she might have just said something that was just like kind of a throwaway line describing the character. That's it. So I'm not really reading into this that much. So I saw this, and my first reaction was literally, oh no. Think about how many comments I'm gonna have to read. If you don't know what it's like making videos about why a franchise failed, I have thought about banning these 4 letters for about 3 years on my channel, because if I drew 2 circles of the dumbest people who literally can't describe a single problem, and the people who use the word woke, it's 1 circle. Just 1 circle. There is no Venn diagram. It's just the same circle. This is the complete opposite, by the way. Let's look at the comments. It's actually not saying it. Maybe it's because I have the extension. Anyway, let's read through this. So basically, my current thought process on this right now is that this is a weird change, and it seems like they're going to be doing the same thing as they did with season 1, and I really didn't like it. They're basically going to be streamlining the characters instead of expanding on them, as you would expect with like an adaptation, right? And this was the weirdest thing for me with season 1. It's the same thing of spectacle versus substance. It's just a weird call to me. They did the same thing with Sokka, they did the same thing with Katara. Every single character had like their edges filed away, and I don't understand why. Oh yeah, there was like another thing about them being older, and people were mad about that. Obviously they're going to be older, there's going to be a time skip. What do you mean? Okay. Being older won't be the only change. Yeah, sure. Mixed reactions, whatever. A little bit older, of course, literally doesn't matter. Cool. Check reaffirmed changes like, I think that's how you say her name. Toph being a little older, but she also confirmed that the Earthbender will be slightly more feminine in the live-action series. My version of Toph is going to be a little older and slightly more feminine. I feel like I wanted to work into a very humanizing space for her because, you know, she was a cartoon. This is a very weird thing to say. Very weird thing to say, because this is implying that people like this don't exist. Very weird thing to say. Check also mentioned how she met Toph's original voice actress, Michaela Jill Murphy, and how both of them have a very similar take in terms of process with the character. I've met Michaela, who plays the voice of Toph, and I feel like we have a very similar take in terms of process. Okay, you literally just wrote the same thing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Toph is that they go into all of this, like the stuff with Tales of Ba Sing Se and stuff. It's not like this side of Toph doesn't exist at all, right? And I have a whole video on this if you want to hear my actual take on this in depth before this news broke. Spoilers. You know why I started covering a lot of Book 2 Avatar on the main channel? I expected people to be mad about Book 2 of Avatar. Just putting it out there. So I made this video right here. Toph and the true meaning of metal bending, and I go into this a lot more here. So I do think this like tender side of her is very important, especially with like her accepting the weaknesses and basically her rebelling against all of this. Like even the moniker of the blind bandit, she is parodying the fact that people consider her a blind girl, right? And the bandit thing is specifically rebelling against her parents' wishes of her being like a lady, right? So her entire purpose and how she presents herself is a rebellion against these traits. That's how she wants to portray herself. So I think this Appa. up, you will be exposed in 4K. So I think saying that like she was a cartoon and that I need to work into a very humanizing space, I think it's just like it's a very weird thing to say. It's like implying that these kinds of people don't exist and that there are not other people who want to portray themselves like Toph. Seems weird to me. I mean, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just thinking that, you know, this... Alright, let me catch up on everything and then we'll talk about it a bit more. If they can't adapt the character purely, then they should find something different. Toph is more of a tomboy. She's supposed to be the toughest, most masculine character in the series. I mean, it's not even the fact that like she's supposed to be a Giga Chad 24/7. I think it's just the way they are framing this it's what has my spidey senses tingling. It's the same thing as with like Sokka's sexism. It's like removing these small imperfections, these small bits of characterization of all the characters for seemingly no reason. That's what has me worried. They're basically, I don't want to say dumbing down the characters, but it's just removing texture. And it, like, small changes like this by themselves, they don't really change anything, like, really. But when you look at the macro picture of the story, you won't be invested in the characters because you won't have these little, small, emotional beats that you go through with them, right? I can see people calling it that only because of the same kind of attempt at modernizing as Sokka as an optics thing. And that's the weirdest thing to me, right? Because if I enable my terminally online brain, wouldn't this be like the complete opposite of woke? Wouldn't like the ultimate thing of like the Netflix thing, wouldn't they make her like a Giga Chad 24/7, make her stronger than Aang and all of this? Isn't like this the complete opposite of what they should be doing? That's what has me kind of intrigued. I think it's kind of a odd change, whatever the case. I just hope they act their age instead of pretending that they're the same age since season 1. I don't want Stranger Things season 3 acting them younger. Yeah, I hope they lean into the fact that there's been a time skip. I really hope so. Tales of Ba Sing Se is supposed to be a culture shock for her. It's also supposed to be a point of connection with Katara, right? Because like the Tales of Ba Sing Se thing is not just about Toph and how she portrays herself. It's also the fact that she breaks out of her shell. Because like before this, there was the whole thing about her never wanting help, never really seeing herself as a part of Team Avatar. And Tales of Ba Sing Se in the desert and all that is her really starting to connect with them. And this is like one of those instances where they actually have this shared experience. And then like way later in book 3, she talks about how she sees Katara as this motherly role, right? So again, it's odd. I think it's more live action, good animation, lesser. That's what has me worried. It's probably a media talking point. It helps them market and justify the live action equals more human and cartoon equals a caricature. Yeah, probably. Characters have flaws for a reason. That's what makes a lot of the character. Yep. I think the big thing with a lot of these live action shows, and I feel the same way with One Piece actually. I feel like very, very similarly with One Piece. It is a matter of how long we've spent with them, but a lot of the small personal, like, touches of personality that animation often has, and like one of the big reasons why animation will always be exaggerated is because you don't have the fine movements of the facial structures and everything else, right? Like a live person can convey infinitely more emotions than an animated character just because of how our faces look, right? So usually animation will be way more exaggerated to convey largely the same ideas. So when you start pulling back on the animation front, instead of leaning into it with a live person, it's weird. And this happens a lot with these live action shows, and I don't know why. Maybe they think that a lot of these things in animation are like quirks, and you don't need the quirks. I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. Again, like, personally, I don't put a lot of stock into this. I don't. After season 1, yes, I do think if you feel like this is a bad sign, I think you're completely justified in feeling this way, considering again what happened in book 1. But like personally, this is not something big surprise. I am not immediately just throwing everything into the fire and saying it's over, it's dead, right? I want to see what they do and then judge it for what it is. Book 1, I'm still of the opinion that Book 1 was okay, considering they were working with the Book 1 material, which was, again, very all over the place. Book 1 was fine. In terms of characters, Book 1 of the animated show was better. Of course it was. Of course it was. There was no contest. But it was fine. So, we'll see what happens with Book 2. Book 2 has some of the easiest to adapt stories of all time. If they mess up Zuko alone, that's I think when I'm gonna give up. I'm willing to swallow the change if she's both feminine and strong-armed, at least in the sense that they can expand Tales of Ba Sing Se while also exploring the fact that, that her tough fact is also a mask in the scene. That's my threshold, period. Yep. The thing I'm worried about is if they make her... Because Toph has moments of vulnerability and moments where she is, like, tender. But I hope they don't try to nerf her. Because Toph doesn't show vulnerability until she has completely destroyed anything that stands in her way. Like, the reason why she discovers metal bending is because she literally clenches her teeth and keeps fighting until she literally breaks out of metal. This is not like a situation of, oh no, we lost Appa. It's so bad. No, she's like, oh, that's bad. And then she trains in sandbending 24/7. That's what I really hope. It's not like this more feminine side. Whatever that's even supposed to mean. Like, in this context, I don't even know what more feminine is supposed to mean. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. This is the season where they have so much to prove. Book 2 is like... Book 2 should be an easy slam dunk for them. Like, Book 2 is so much about personal character narratives. I just don't see a live action production. Like, think about the desert and Aang's story, right? Like, leading up to the Serpent's Pass. Think about Tales of Ba Sing Se, which should be in some capacity. We talked about the casting news. Jin is in some capacity casted, so theoretically there should be Tales of Ba Sing Se. Theoretically. Think about Zuko's story with Lake Laogai. Think about all of these things. This should be a slam dunk. There should be no way for them to mess up Book 2, except for the fact that they don't have enough episodes. That is the only thing that Book 2 should have a problem with, is not having enough episodes to actually just go over everything. Other than that, I will... Like, Book 2, I will be critiquing way harder in terms of characters. Way harder. I gave them the benefit of the doubt with Book 1 where they were trying to figure stuff out. Book 2, you are locked in. All I'm saying is if they skip Avatar Day, I'm gonna cry, surely. You can just go to Koroto's Mystery Shack, write in Avatar Day, which, by the way, also just so happens to be foreshadowing for the next animated series. Who could have expected this? Who could have expected this? I think there was even a comment about this. Just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. So if you ever feel disappointed with the direction of Book 2, you could just go to Koroto's Mystery Shack, click on the Avatar Saga, and there just so happens to be a lot of videos specifically about Book 2. I'm not saying this is a coincidence. So if they cut out the swamp, if they mess up Toph's episode, if they cut out Avatar Day, if they cut out the library and Wan Shi Tong is messed up, if something happens with the Avatar state, if something messes up with how they convey Aang mastering earthbending, if you want to know why filler is very important and why Book 1 largely failed because there was a lack of filler, if you want to see a video about why Zhang should have been included, I'm just saying. I think that's basically all I had to say about Avatar. We'll see what happens. I think a lot of people are blowing it out of proportion, but I think it's also perfectly justified if you feel like this is a bad sign. Do you think they'll explore other romantic partners for Aang as a new addition in parallel to Zuko and Jin? I hope not. I hope not. Like, they just literally don't have enough time to delve into this stuff. Like, adding random, like, romantic partnerships is probably the last thing I want them to think about. Like, literally, if I had to write a list of things that Avatar should focus more on, yeah, like random romance would probably be last. There are probably like some that you would want to leave in there because they convey a story, like how Katara initially falls for Jet and stuff, right? Like that's decently important. Other than that though, and with Zuko and Jin is important. Like Zuko's story in Ba Sing Se, that is important. Other than that, please no. Like why? I'm holding out hope that Zhang makes an appearance at the beginning of book 3. I've got no idea why they cut out Zhang. Like actually. Literally doesn't make any sense to me.